So I did a survey recently on YouTube here, and I asked if people like to use tubes in their hi-fi systems. And I was really surprised by the results. It seems that twice as many people like to have tubes in their system compared to an all-solid-state system. Overwhelmingly, most people who responded to the survey wanted tubes in their system. I like to run a kind of a beefy solid-state power amp, and then I always have tubes in my preamp sections. It was still surprising to see that large a majority of people choosing to use tubes in their systems. And I get it. I mean, there's a quality that tubes bring to a system, a certain life and a certain intangible aspect. I mean, you can hear the imaging and then the air and all the benefits that a tube system can bring. It was interesting to see the uptake of tubes in our hobby, especially with my viewers here. And so with that in mind, I recently received a set of tubes from a new tube manufacturer, and I wanted to give you my impressions on what I heard and how they compared to what I was using already. So stay tuned.
Dave listens to Hi-Fi. Dave listens to Hi-Fi.
So first of all, let me get this out of the way. I asked the tube supplier, my contact at the tube supplier, her name is Melody, and I asked her the question that no one seems to really have a definitive answer for, this critical question: how do you pronounce this? And she said, this is how it's pronounced, it's Psvane. So Psvane is the name of the company. These are Psvane tubes. So let me just put a point on that. That's how it's done. The new tubes from Psvane are the Horizon series. So they have 3 levels of tubes. They have a basic set, a selected set, and a premium set. And so the basic set is a Hi-Fi and UK series. The selected set was the Art tubes and now the new Horizon line. And then they have a premium level, which is Wii and Acme. So they have a number of different qualities of tubes and levels that you can choose from them. From the selected, the mid-grade set of tubes, this new Horizon line, compared to the Art series, they say the Art series is a warmer, lusher tube, and the Horizon series is more neutral. And it's really interesting to me how they know the configuration, the materials, and all the engineering in the tube to produce a specific type of sound that they're looking for. You know, the art of making tubes is so advanced that we have definite science to say this is what we need to do to make it sound this way. It was really interesting. But they sent me a set of Horizon tubes. It's a new manufacturer tube. They're made in China from the Psvane company. Psvane company is an independent company. It's more than 10 years old. It was originally founded, I believe, by some people who came from another tube manufacturer. They started their own company. And right now there's more than 300 employees there, 10 engineers, and they're building, they report 1.6 million tubes per year, which seems pretty impressive. I watched an old documentary on the Mullard, the Blackburn factory in the UK from the 40s and 50s. This is the heyday of tubes when transistors were not widely available and used in electronics, and tubes were used for amplification and for electronics of all sorts. And that at that time they had more than 6,000 employees. These Mullard Blackburn factory started and expanded. I mean, there was a separate building for making the chemicals for use in the production. There was a separate company for making the wire used in the production, and there was over 6,000 employees there, and they made 500,000 tubes a day in these factories. It's like the size and the level of manufacture there was just incredible, and a lot of it seemed to be automated at that point too. Now the Mullard tubes have a great reputation as new old stock and vintage tubes. Nowadays, the Psvane company, they're continuing doing development. They're using modern materials, modern testing equipment, and it's reasonable to believe that they can now produce tubes that will rival the tubes that were made back in the day. And I'm not saying these Horizon tubes are better than what you'll find from Amperex or Mullard or Telefunken, but they're pretty good. And certainly when you look at the pricing, they are solid. They're a budget tube. They're not expensive. You can check them out. Here's the website, and There's good quality control, they're nicely manufactured, they're supposed to be reliable and long-lasting. Making tubes is still a very labor-intensive process. So back in the day in the Blackburn factory, there was a lot of machinery, and a lot of it was automated. But for those volumes, and it made sense. Nowadays, it seems to be regressed a little bit into how much hand-built. A lot of the assembly seems to be hand done and very labor intensive, and from what I can see, it's pretty much like that in tube manufacturers in the States, in China, in Europe. There's continual development, and it's not unreasonable to think that the tubes made nowadays can be as good or better than tubes made 25, 50 years ago, you know. So the tubes that I got sent to me are the new Horizon series, like I mentioned. I got some 12 AT7s, I got some 12 AU7s, and some 12 AX7s. My Doge 8 has 12 AT7s, 4 of them in the line stage, and then I have my phono preamp, which uses two 12 AU7s and one 12 AX7. So I got a chance to get all those for all my preamps. They come in this nice white box here. Inside is another set of boxes. So each one of these boxes carries 2 tubes. This is for the 12 series. So there's the main outer box. There's an inner box that carries inside that the box for the tube. So each tube is pretty much triple boxed, very well packaged, and they arrived all safe and sound. This is their selected, kind of their mid-tier tubes. They have 2 series in the mid-range. It's the Horizon and then the Art series. And the difference between the 2 is the Art series tends to be a warmer, more lush sound compared to the Horizon series, which is more of a neutral sound. They know what formulation and what to do in the tubes when you're manufacturing them to give them a warmer or more neutral sound. It's not just, oh, we made some tubes and they happen to sound like this. It's they're making these tubes and they're making those tubes, and this is the sound of those ones and this is the sound of these ones. So some real expertise, some real actual development and material science and engineering gone into the manufacture of these tubes, where they can actually say, this is a neutral tube, this is a warm tube, and you know, they can do that with all the other series that they produce. So mid-tier, neutral-sounding Horizon tubes. They feature a new anode coating. They call it the HPC-T and an HPC-X. Don't have any details on those, but it's a special coating on the anodes which help for durability, for lower distortion, lower noise. They're reinforced, so there's more durability and reliability in the tubes. And when they build them, they also burn them in for 24 hours, and then they test them. And if you read on their website, they actually say, it's actually on there, it says, immediate destruction of any defective products on the production line. So they really take seriously the quality of the tubes and the name on the tubes. They don't let any of the defective tubes go out the back door or whatever, and then you have a Psvane tube that tends not to be that good. They actually destroy them when they're found to be defective, and so there's nothing getting out that's subpar. And if you look at these tubes, the Horizon series, they don't come with any test reports or anything on them. I imagine probably the higher end tubes do. But these ones, if you look at the tubes themselves, there actually does appear to be some sort of serial numbers printed on the tubes themselves. So there is at least internal traceability for when they're building the tubes. They can trace them and measure them and test them and make sure every one of them is up to spec. To start with, I was listening to the tubes in my phono stage. So it's the Synthesis Roma, and it's got 2 12AX7s and one 12AU7. The stock tubes that came with that were the Electro Harmonics made in Russia tubes. And I was putting on 10,000 Maniacs in my tribe, and I was also listening to Gordon Lightfoot. The Electro Harmonics tubes, the stock tubes, they were pretty warm, pretty lush, maybe the warmest of all of the 3 sets that I tried. They had good bass extension. They were a little woolly and a bit undefined on the bass. But they had nice clarity through the mid-range. Mid-range upper mids were very clear, so it didn't sound closed in or covered with a blanket or anything. They still had nice clarity. The bass was a little bit undefined, but it had still nice extension. Gordon Lightfoot's voice had a nice chestiness through it. Interestingly, the voices, they appeared kind of high in the soundstage. It was a weird effect of these that I noticed on these tubes. You hear the center image, and it was more forward, and it was kind of up high in the air, vertically. Just a nice overall tone. They work quite well. I had also a set of the Psvane standard basic tubes. I don't know if they're the UK series or not, but they're just labeled Psvane with a red writing rather than the gold on the horizons. And I have a set of those in the 12AX7s, and I have a 12AU7 EI Yugoslav. So that was kind of the mix that I had been running. Those seem to have more airiness, more spaciousness. They had a bit more of a forward presentation. The bass was more linear rather than kind of, I don't want to say bloated with the Electro-Harmonix tubes, but the bass was more pronounced. Bass was more linear and defined with the Psvane and the EI tube. The high end was nice and airy, voices were very natural, and like I said, a nice wide, spacious, layered soundstage. Not as 3D, I found, as with the Horizon tubes, but they had a nice dimension to it that I could say. The next set of tubes that went in were the Psvane Horizons, in all three tube sockets. And let me tell you, this really brought the best of everything together. Like they advertised, they were very linear, very neutral sounding. The frequency range was extended top to bottom, nice extended bass and detailed and defined. The presentation was a little bit further back, but it also meant that it was an even deeper soundstage and nice and airy and nice and clear. I pulled out Killer Mike, and I noticed, in addition to the bass, the mid-range was very clear. I mean, it was really easy to hear the lyrics articulated. So it had great mid-range clarity, and as well a nice separation of instruments too. That was something that I hadn't noticed with the other two combinations. But the instruments all seemed to separate from each other rather than being a kind of one part of a big massive sound. Had more instrument separation. So extra detail, extra separation, nice frequency balance between highs and lows, extended lows and airy highs. So it really did all that I wanted on this phono stage. So I'm excited to hear how that will work with other component changes I'll make in the future, because I've found with this phono stage, the better the components I put downstage from it, the more I hear out of that phono stage. So I think I haven't really explored exactly what it can do, but I think with these tubes I'll be excited to hear what I can get out of it in the future. So then I moved on to evaluating the tubes with my Doge 8 preamp. So I'm just using the line stage in that, and that uses a quad of 12 AT7s. The preamp came to me, maybe the stock tubes, I'm not sure because I bought the preamp used, but it had a quad of Jan Phillips 12 AT7s. I can see why they use them as stock tubes, if indeed they were the stock tubes, because they were very balanced. Nothing really stood out. The bass was solid, the highs were extended, had nice layering, sounded wide and airy. If I were to criticize it a bit, the clarity through the mid-range was not the best I've heard. The bass was extended, but maybe not as deep as I've heard, and especially with the 10,000 Maniacs listening through the phono stage, once I got the Horizon tubes in there especially, the top end, you could hear a bit of splashiness. It lacked that clarity and detail on the top end. Even though it was extended, it just was a little rough sounding. So because I was using the Doge 8 as a line stage only, I was listening to some CDs as well through my DAC. I put on Charlie Hayden, Ballad of the Fallen. Been listening to it for many years. I'm hearing it initially in an audio store, back in the late 80s, I guess, when it came out. It's a great CD, well recorded, and it has nice spaciousness and extended bass, and a lot of upright bass from Charlie Hayden. So it really gives you good tools for evaluation. So with the Philips tubes, you could hear the bass was well presented, nice and forward in the soundstage, good clarity, good extension, good weight to it. Like I said, those tubes are a great all-arounder. I can see why you would choose them to put them in the amp, because they provide a nice kind of sampling of all the good things that tubes do without any obvious shortcomings. The next set of tubes I tried, I've got a quad of RCA black plates. And these are vintage tubes. They weren't new old stock. I bought them used, so I don't know how much tube life they have left in them, but they were certainly quiet, a little bit more microphonic when you go and tap the tubes. The RCAs did produce more noise than certainly the Jan Phillips did. The RCAs produced a bit less low end, but they had a really nice, lush, without being overly weighted, mid-range, and a great clarity, and especially the low-level detail. This is where I found they really excelled, was instruments that are quiet in the soundstage had an absolute clarity, like stuff far back in the mix. You could just hear, tambourines and little percussions and, accent guitars far in the soundstage, down in the mix. You could really hear the details. It was almost as if there was less dynamic range. When something is more compressed, you can hear all the details of the stuff that should be quieter. But in this case, the stuff was actually quieter and much more detailed. So really exceptional in that regard. I don't know what they did with those tubes back in the day, but they really produced a nice sound, a nice level of detail and spaciousness. If they weren't as extended in the frequency extremes, they produced a really nice sound, a nice clarity, and a very warm and inviting sound to them. Then when I was traveling one time, I picked up a set of Matsushita made in Japan tubes. I just have two of them, of the 12AT7s. So I combined those with two of the RCAs, and I made a combo of those. That mix gave a better low end, more extended low end than the RCAs alone. But you did lose that detail. It brought the images a little bit more forward, but you lost a bit of the clarity in the resolution through the mid-range. So one way of swapping things around to kind of get a tone that you like, but I just found that combination did not give the best mix of qualities that I like. I mean, although it did bring back the low end, which I really like, it was that detail and the resolution through the mid-range that the RCA tubes had that was really hard to give up in exchange for a bit of low-end heft. Then finally I put in the quad of Psvane Horizon 12AT7s, and let me tell you, they really brought a modern sound to my Dodge 8. It sounded more, you might describe it as solid state, but it was more lively, more forward, a bit of a brighter presentation, still really nice extended bass, nice and 3D, nice layering, wide extended soundstage, deep and wide, and just a really great combination of attributes that make these the tubes that I'm leaving in there now. The voices on Gordon Lightfoot were just spot on. They were realistic. They weren't overly emphasized. There was clarity. There was detail on the top end. There was layering. There was 3D dimensionality. But like I said, compared to the RCAs, they did lose that extreme level of resolution on lower level information, which was a little bit hard to give up, but these are the mid-range tubes. They present a great value in terms of what they give you for soundstage, resolution, frequency extension. I think they do great in that. So overall, what's my experience with the Psvane Horizon series tubes in my preamps? Well, if I can say anything that'll make you understand, I've got all the Horizon tubes installed in my preamp. These are the ones that I've selected to use to listen to full time. I love the fact that they're brand new, modern manufacture, modern materials. I believe in their testing. They should provide good long-term reliability. I'll definitely report if something comes up because I'm going to be running them full-time now. I like the sound. It's a nice modern sound. It doesn't sound slow. It's quick and articulate. It does lack some of the resolution of the new old stock tubes, but there's a price for everything. And at the price that these are, they certainly provide a great value especially knowing that they're available at any time. Psvane is selling them. I think you can buy them on their site. If not, they've partnered through Amazon to make them readily available. And they have quality control, and they have a good warranty, and they seem very responsive also on email and through the forums. So given that support, given that it's a new manufacturer, and you'll have these available for a while, it's great that people are producing brand new things to support tube amps, and so we can continue to enjoy these components that we all love. I had some discussions with Loic at the Hi-Fi Cave, and he really seems to love the cryotone tubes. A significant investment over these, but there is room to improve, certainly. So maybe in the future that's something else I'll try. So for now, Psvane Horizon gets top billing, and they're the ones that occupy my tube sockets for the meantime. So there you go. There's my thoughts on some nice new tubes. Thank you for watching. I would love it if you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to make a push and get some more subscribers, get my voice out there more, start sharing some more stories and some more component evaluations, and keep watching. Thanks for tuning in to Dave Listens to Hi-Fi.